Okay, let's go through our list of rules for first species counterpoint one more time. I'm just going to kind of wrap them all up here for us. Okay, and yes, I'm reading this. So I'm not just doing this off the top of my head. I am reading the rules. I know I like to give the impression that I'm always just kind of shooting from the hip and just talking. But I am going to read through the rules. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of rules here, and I'm going to read them, and then we'll maybe chat about each one as I go. Okay, number one. For the opening harmonic interval, write an octave or a unison or a fifth, the latter only with the contus in the lower voice. So what they're saying here, I guess that's something we didn't really talk about, is that this first interval could be a fifth. Okay, so this opening interval can be a fifth as long as the tonic is in the lower voice still. You wouldn't do this opposite of this, so that the G was in the bass. That would be a no-no. But you could open with a fifth if the tonic is in the bottom voice, the lower voice, I should say. Let's go back. Okay, number two. For the closing harmonic interval, write a 6/8 or 3U 10/8. So what they're saying here is on the closing harmonic interval, make this either an interval of a sixth and then an eighth, so a sixth and then an octave, or alternatively a third and then a unison, which is what we have here. So we have a third between these two notes and then down to a unison. So they want that third to kind of collapse inward to a unison. Or you could do a sixth opening out to an octave. In minor is still part of rule number two. In minor, raise the flat 7 and raise the flat 6 if it precedes the flat 7 to avoid an augmented second. But don't use raised 6 if it creates a cross relation. Okay, let me explain that one. So what they're saying is, if we're in a minor key, you're going to have the flat 7 is always in the minor key. They want you to raise that so that it's a leading tone. For example, if we were in a minor key here, this would be B flat if we were in C minor. And so what they're saying is they want this to be a leading tone, and it's not if we do that. So they want you to raise it if you're in a minor key. Also, if we were in a minor key, and let's say we had an A here, this would be A flat, right? So let's assume we're in C minor for these last three notes here, or these last three chords, I should say. What they're saying is raise the leading tone, so we would do that. That makes an augmented second right here between these two, right? A flat to B would be enharmonically would be a minor third, right? But we have it written as a second, A to B, and the flat makes it an augmented second. We don't like those. So what they're saying is if an augmented second happens, raise that A also in a minor key so that you avoid the augmented second. That's what they're saying there. So that's rule number two. Rule number three, write mostly contrary motion between the parts. I think we've covered that one sufficiently. Always use contrary motion if you can, but there are other things you can do sometimes as well. Number four, avoid parallel octaves or fifths by parallel or contrary motion. So avoid parallel octaves and fifths. We've talked about that one. Number five, approach perfect intervals by contrary motion or in similar motion with a stepwise upward voice. Okay, so here's a perfect interval. What they're saying is if you're going to do a perfect interval, a fifth or an octave, approach it with contrary motion like we've done here. Okay, so we open out and we get there. That helps it work. Or you can do similar motion if one of them is going by a step. In other words,